America's freedom attacks. We need to step up to get it back. Without our voices, we are useless. So here I am, red, white, and ruthless. It's our time now. The truth comes to light. Our president shot, but says fight, 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 fight. America's song is an anthem. There's only one, and you can have some. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? This is the song about America's fight. It's our time now. The truth comes to light. Our president shot, but says fight, fight, fight. America's song is her anthem. There's only one, and you can have some. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? This is the song about America's fight. It's our time now. The truth comes to light. Our president is shot, but says fight, fight.
All right, guys, here we are, Red, White, and Ruthless, number 15. Take a little time off, and been doing some things, so good to be back. A lot of shit going on in the world right now. We just bombed Iran and took out their nuclear shit, and that's a good thing, although the fake news media doesn't want to believe it. It is what it is. But today we're not going to talk about politics. Today I'm trying something new. We're going to try and go a little bit shorter on these, and just talk a little bit briefer about this, that, or the other. Who knows? Who knows? But today I want to talk about some prison shit. All right. So a lot of times people want to talk about, especially because I worked in a female prison for a little while, and people are curious as to the people getting in trouble with female inmates and shit. So yeah, that it took me a while to adjust, because I started at a level 4 prison in Southern California, and that was way different than a female prison. Far different. A lot more violence, a lot more serious violence, a lot more gang shit. Just way different. So I roll up to, I don't even remember, this is like the late 90s, when I transferred to Valley State Prison in late 90s, and it was a new female prison, and just opening up. So I activated Facility D there. My first partner, Chris Ross. We're not friends on Facebook for some reason. I don't know. Chris is a great dude. He was a great partner. He came from Southern California like me. As far as that's not where I'm from, but as far as first prisons, he started at, I want to say Sentinel. I'm sure it was Sentinella. And I was at Calipat, which was probably like 30 miles away. And they were both fairly new. Calipat was a little newer, a little older. Sentinella was a little newer, but only by, I want to say, like maybe 2 years or something like that. I went on a tour of Sentinella when they were just about to open it, because I was, living or working at Calipat. But anyways, yeah, Chris, good dude. He took a different path than me. I chose promoting and I just always wanted to make the most money I could, and I didn't enjoy overtime or anything. Not that Chris did or anything. I don't know if he did or not, but I just wanted to make the most money that I could, which meant promoting. And then of course you take that with you in retirement. And so I saw that, and some folks, I think Chris saw time with his family, which is very important, obviously. And he wanted the weekends off and stuff like that. So And of course, he wanted to serve his people in the union, so he went to the union route. So we even though we were like our first partners there at Valley, we ended up kind of butting heads here and there, and no hard feelings on my part. But he had a job to do, I had a job to do, so it is what it is. But good dude though. As a matter of fact, I remember. Oh man, what was his name? Oh gosh, Lieutenant. Damn, y'all will any OGs from Valley will know who I'm talking about. Old school Lieutenant. Um, he's the one with the nose hairs and crazy, acting crazy and all kind of shit. Damn, I wish I could remember this lieutenant. I can't remember it. But anyways, he loved the dudes from down south, like me and Chris, because we pretty much ran our units tight and we knew what we were doing. And so, anyways, he liked that. But yeah, Chris is a good dude. This is going a little bit different. I brought up Chris just because he was my first partner. Chris was a great dude, never had any issues with getting in trouble or anything like that. So we're going to switch gears into the ones who didn't have that kind of luck so much. So like I said, when I started at Valley, I didn't look at my partners as people I needed to like watch out for as far as misconduct. I mean, who does that? You look for your partners because you want them to have your back, you have theirs, and all that kind of shit, right? So of course, but after a while, it was like, I don't know if I was just unfortunate, but like my first two or three partners ended up being ones that were over familiar with the female inmates. So not it was on DR still. Chris had moved on, I think, or he had gone somewhere else, but I ended up getting another partner. And this one, I mean, I don't know if he was having sex with inmates or whatever, but what happened is, and this is like on, I can't see on the low scale because you ain't heard what I got to say yet. It was more on the high scale, but not sex necessarily, but sexual. So anyways, get to my point. So I got inmates come in to me, obviously female inmates coming to me and say, hey, this dude, I'm not going to mention his name, but this dude, he's disgusting and he talks about sex and blah, 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 all this bullshit. And you could tell on his face, he had different piercings, like his nose, his ears, his like eyebrow and shit. And so the inmates were telling me, he's like, yeah, this guy will stand over there and he'll tell us that a piercing in, one particular area means something sexual. And then one over here means another thing sexual. And then he'll say he's got his dick pierced and, all kind of shit like this. And, I just kind of blew it off because, I mean, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. I'm not running to tell anybody. I mean, they could write it up. Well, I wasn't going to be me, especially at that stage of my career. That's just, not going to be me. But I started to pay attention to what was going on in my unit. So then I would watch him a little bit, and then I would see him over with, surrounded by a bunch of inmates. And he put himself there. It's over in their seating area. I was in what we refer to as a cop shop, which is basically a kind of an oval area with a barricade and a little half door where, that's where we came in. We had, chairs in there and our, all our shit. Anyways, I would be in there and I'd see him over talking to these inmates, and he would literally be pointing to the areas on his face, at least, where he had piercings. And then I could see, he would point, to one area, and then the inmates would laugh and whatever. So then I was like, man, maybe there's something to this shit. So, I never really, never did anything with it. But next thing you know, I get called up by the facility captain, and it was a female. I can't remember her name. But she pulls me up and she's like, "Hey, just want to talk to you. I know you've got to know that, there's some things going on in your unit." And, you know, sh- and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, and I didn't really know where she was going. Um, but she was like, "Well, I mean, is there anything you want to tell us?" And I'm like, "No, And so we played this song and dance until, she obviously kind of admitted that they were looking at my partner for over familiarity. So, she's like, "Well, I just want you to know that you could come to me and talk to me and all this bullshit." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, appreciate it." And that was pretty much it. Until dude gets dude gets redirected. Finally, they end up redirecting him because of whatever he was doing. And at that, I don't really know at that point. I really figured out exactly what he was doing. Um, I don't think I heard shit that he was actually having sex with inmates at that point. But he got redirected. And of all the stupid places, CDCR, okay, I'm sure nobody's listening, but you dumb fucks. When you redirect a staff member who who you plan on potentially firing, the last place you should put them is in a tower with a gun where that individual has gun coverage over everybody and has them contained in a sally port right below them or him. Okay, it's just stupid. You've got to have another place for this fool to work. Okay, which was absolutely asinine. I mean, asinine. And when I finish the story, you'll know how kind of crazy it was, because he got redirected, and he he was up in that tower, and for months he was up in that tower. And then finally what happened, now y'all remember that I ended up being the investigative, I worked investigations as a lieutenant and a sergeant, so I had access to all the files. So I know, everybody who got in trouble, I knew what the hell they did, and so on. So anyways, so what happened is they ended up getting a search warrant for his vehicle one day. So they must have believed either he was bringing shit. I don't know how he could bring shit in the tower, or he had shit. I don't know. I don't remember getting in that deep into it, but I know they did the search warrant, and they searched his vehicle. They found cocaine. They found a loaded 44 Magnum pistol, some other drugs, as I recall. Just a train wreck. If you're, if you're a person working in a prison, everything you don't want to have on prison grounds, because all these things are, I mean, they're felonies. Okay, they're all felonies. Loaded weapon, felony. Cocaine, felony. Okay, it's not. It doesn't even matter how much. It's a felony. All right. Um, so yeah, so he, that pretty much punched his ticket, and he was done. Um, and that was my second partner. So I stayed on that facility for a little while longer, and then I bounced over to Charlie Yard, C Yard, and I worked with this other dude, and I'll be damned if he wasn't dirty too. So again, I'm like, maybe I'm paying a little closer attention. And so just because of the last dude, and we're getting to some interesting shit here, some way more in detail stuff. So hang with me. So this dude, we're hearing that he's having this inappropriate relationship with this female inmate, and she was housed in our housing unit. as I recall, they moved her out, and I don't know because I was just an officer then, so I don't know if that was intentional or not. I don't know. It probably was intentional to get her away from him. Um, and maybe they just didn't have enough money to, or excuse money. Maybe they didn't have enough information at that point to to put him on out of work or redirect him or whatever. I don't really know, but they moved him or her, excuse me. So I mean, and we all knew who it was, so it was kind of a well-known thing on the yard. I mean, I remember walking in sometimes and talking about, you know, fucking dirty cop on the yard and, blah, blah, blah. And he's right behind us. So he basically had no relationship with any, with any cop at that point because everybody knew he was dirty. It's kind of an ugly situation that they let go on probably too far, but I don't know what kind of information they have. I say that, but, what they knew and what they didn't know, I don't know. For me, you know, it it felt like it went on too long because everybody knew, and obviously it was true. Um, so we're working together, and I could see him. He'd be out because we used to do smoke breaks, or we may have got out of cigarettes by then. I don't really remember. But anyways, we did breaks, like 10-minute breaks. So if you're having day room, you could go outside for 10 minutes and, it's basically an unlock. So a cop would stand out front and he would always go out front, all right, whatever. Well, this little thing from the other unit now would come down and see him, and you could see them, chatting it up in the, on the unlock, and, they were both out there, chopping it up or whatever. So that went on for a little while. And, it kind of came out that he was, having sex with her and so on. And he ended up finally getting walked off. All right. So again, there wasn't really, it's not like in these, I didn't see him, but obviously we know it happened because they got walked off. The one that I'll talk about next was absolutely a no doubter. So at this time, I'm in investigations. I think I'm lieutenant in investigations, and I must have been. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So I get a call in the middle of the night. It's like it's got to be, I don't know, closer to 9 o'clock or so. So what happened is the watch commander, that's a lieutenant, and was walking around, and she walks into the we've got like a big meeting room on each facility, a large, like a conference room is what it is, conference room on B facility. So what happened is she walks in on a lieutenant actually having sex with a female inmate. Now, this lieutenant was doing overtime. He was the inmate assignment lieutenant at the time. He was doing overtime on facility B, and he's under the guise of he had some work to do, for his day job. Essentially, he needed this particular inmate who also worked for him out in the inmate assignments office. He needed her pulled because she was going to help him do the work. And I guess she was, because he was over there having sex with her. So what happened is she walks in, and I mean, he's literally at that point of the end of the sexual encounter where he's I don't know, he's getting his nut basically. All right. That's when she walks in, and his pants were down, her pants were down. It was there's no way to misunderstand what was going on, obviously. So she obviously did the right thing and called the AOD. Then I get a call from from the warden, and I'm reporting to the institution because I'm the internal affairs guy locally. And I go in there and I'm securing the area, and uh, making sure that nobody enters it because they're going to come in and they're going to do, a little black light bullshit. And, and I say there, this is a situation where we would contact in the Office of Internal Affairs, and they would send investigators down, and that's what they would do is they would look for, evidence, at that point, although there was a lot of evidence, eyewitness evidence. The inmate got locked up, which really shouldn't have happened because she was essentially a victim. Um, Even though, we all know she was a willing participant, she's really considered a victim because of the, federal laws, inmate or Rape Elimination Act. I forget the full name of it, but anyways, yeah, she's considered a victim because he's in a position of authority, and but she did get locked up for a short period of time, and of course she denied everything. I really think she liked the dude, and he liked he liked her. That doesn't really matter though. You don't get to do that in prison. But he was put out on leave, and I think he ended up retiring. I don't think we charged him at that point. At that point, they weren't doing a lot of charging staff for essentially rape um, in that situation, although it is it's a felony. So we so we had that one, and that was a lieutenant. So it's definitely not just officers. Matter of fact, a lot of times it's absolutely not officers. Um, so we had another one with a CC2. Now this one, man, I don't even know. This one took a long time, and it was like a big feather in the cap when we finally got this dude. He was the most manipulative, lying piece of shit that I think I've ever met. And he he would give confidential information. Now, the inmate I'm talking about was a pretty decent uh drug. I say decent as far as like on the scale of are you a huge drug dealer? She was, but she was also a drug user, big time. So she, it just sometimes it doesn't work out if you're using your product and so on. But she was a big time drug user. She had like Hep C, and she actually wasn't a bad looking inmate, but I mean, she had every disease known to man. My we had charged her in my out of my office with additional drug dealing. She got another life sentence is basically what she got. She had 2 life sentences. But anyways, knowing this guy, this CC2, who had this relationship with her, and for the life of me, I don't understand it still, but he knew the family. He was friendly with the family, and they just wouldn't give each other up. Now the weird thing was, and I think he was trying to, I think he was testing me, maybe. I don't know what he was doing, but I was a sergeant at the time, and he comes up to me, and he tells me uh, that inmates sometimes come up to him and give him notes for this particular inmate who was locked up in administrative segregation for dealing dope, and we had locked her up. And he says, sometimes I just take them, and then I when I see her, I just go, I just give them to her. Here you go. And I'm like, do you realize what you just fucking said? Because I mean, that's completely against policy. I mean, he's giving he's given messages to a person we have locked up, and we have no idea what the hell the message says, and he should be giving them to me. But he told me that, and I knew how this was going to go right away. Is he number one? He was testing me by seeing what I would do, knowing he was just going to deny it. But if he got caught, he would say, "Well, I told Neely. He told me, so that somehow that would make it okay because I wouldn't lie about it. I would say, well, yeah, he said something, but blah blah blah. So maybe that I don't really know, but I wrote it up, and it started an investigation on him. And of course, he denied it, and there was no proof that he actually said it. But he knew, and I knew. So in the end, he finally got busted. So what he was doing, and I never found out if I don't think there was even sex going on with this one. I think there was contraband going on, drugs and other things, because that's what she would do. But he was friends with her family, and he would send. How did it work? He would get money, and he had a deal that some officer just thought that this guy was cheating on his wife. So this officer would get mail at his residence for this CC2, and the mail was money. They did a lot of Western Union and shit like that, back in the day. So who knows what it was. And then the front was a dry cleaners down in Southern California, which was owned by the family, and they had a lot of money going through that dry cleaners. So that was where they laundered the money, and he was connected to all of it. So once they were able to connect him to the family, to the to how he was getting getting the money from this this officer who didn't know, and putting all that together, they were able to finally get rid of him. But yeah, she was a real piece of work. But that one took a long time, and everybody knew he was dirty. It's just he was real savvy about how he went about shit. So, but I don't know how much money he made. I mean, who the fuck knows? Now, the last one, this will be my last one for today. Was another one. It was just about money. Well, I'll do two more. Okay, we'll do this one, and then we had a guy who actually killed himself over something, and I'll talk about that one. I'm in no way happy about that. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I think, anyways, I'll get to that one. So we had a guy who he was actually worked in optical. He was like a supervisor. So we made glasses at Valley State. Okay. For the public. So we made glasses there, and this guy was a supervisor back in optical, and he came from another prison. They almost ran him out of there. They knew he was dirty, but they could never prove it, and he was making a lot of money. So we put him under investigation, and this one was actually mine. I got the initial information, and on I think an inmate told me, but obviously. So I started interviewing inmates, because the first inmate that tells, you get all that information. Who else is he dealing with? And the thing started out, I don't remember why they wanted to tell on him. Maybe they just wanted to keep their own ass out of trouble. I can't remember. Anyways, what he was doing was, we didn't know for sure if he was bringing actual dope in, but what we knew was he was bringing in tobacco. Tobacco, to the average person may not seem like no big fucking deal. We had outlawed tobacco at some point during my time at Valley, and tobacco got pretty expensive. If y'all know what a can of Bugler tobacco is. It's like maybe a little bit bigger than like the Morton salt container, and full of tobacco, and that would go for $1,000. $1,000. Okay. You had a can of Bugler, $1,000. Okay, so there's a lot of fucking money in that. All right, so this dude, that's what he was doing. He was bringing in Bugler, and sometimes he would just straight cigarette, because cigarettes, if you can get some Marlboros or some shit like that, I mean those were expensive. Like I think they're like $10 a piece for a single cigarette. So what's in a pack? 20. So $200 for a pack of cigarettes. So anyways, that's what this cat was doing. And so the first inmate I get, I know what was somewhere there was some threats involved, and that's how it came about. And there was a threat against a family. I think it was because the money was owed or something like that. So anyway, they gave up the whole game, and there was a number of inmates that their names were given up, and I interviewed them all, and every single one gave him up. So every single one, nobody refused to. I mean, they gave this fucker up. So I had the whole, it was page after page of interviews and what this guy was doing, and I had we had our employee relations officer write. There's a name for that. It's a search warrant, but it's a search warrant like for Western Union records, administrative warrant. So we wrote an administrative warrant to Western Union for this guy's name, and we had all the copies of these money orders that this dude was getting on behalf of inmates. And they weren't really very good at, I mean, we would connect the names of who gave the money and, all that shit. They just weren't very good. I don't think they really gave a shit about him. They were just, a lot of them didn't know what they were doing. They were just told to send money to this person. They didn't know why. So, so they would do it. So we had copies of all the Western Union docs that, or money that this dude was getting. And so I pulled him over on his way to work, and the idea was that that he would decide to quit. So I told him, pretty much I got your ass. I know this is what you're doing, and this wasn't my idea. This is what they want, how they wanted me to approach it, and it's 50-50 as to whether the guy is gonna going to actually resign, because it's tobacco. It's not a criminal case. It's tobacco. It's purely administrative. And he didn't resign, but at that point, but I did my best to put the fear of God into the dude. He knew what was up. So I believe later on he was either fired or he resigned. He was gone. Either way, he was going to be gone. One was just going to take a little bit more time. But they put him out, and he was done. But yeah, he had made like $10,000 over the previous, say, 3 months. So yeah, he was making a lot of money. Last one I'll talk about today, and there's a bunch, but last one I'll talk about today is a guy, and I'm intentionally not mentioning names because I feel like I know that some folks are gonna know who I'm talking about. So, and many won't. But I don't want to disparage them. I mean, they've moved on in their life, made mistakes, and so on. If I really don't like them, I'll mention their names, but because I don't really give a shit. But I mean, at this point, I don't think it's necessary. It's nobody I particularly dislike. But this guy, I kind of feel bad for. This guy he's kind of a geeky dude, and I feel like he never really probably had a lot of attention by women, and he got himself into a relationship with an inmate, and he got her pregnant, and she ended up paroling and having the kid. And I don't know the nature. I mean, because sometimes, I'm not saying that every time an inmate, I'm saying it's obviously wrong, But I'm also not saying that maybe this inmate really does like the dude. I have no fucking idea, you know. I just know it's wrong. It's illegal. But I do know that when they talked to this inmate, now she paroled, and while she was on parole, they interviewed her while she was pregnant, and she refused to give up this guy's name. So they had to actually write a search warrant to obtain the DNA from the baby once the baby was born. Once they had the DNA from the baby, then they were able to put two and two together. They obviously they took his DNA. You know, they had a warrant for that. So they did that, and by that time, I mean, he knew what was up. So what they did was they notice you. Like if you're under investigation, what you do is you end up going to the investigative services unit office. They'll call you up there, and then they'll serve you a document that says on this date, this time, you'll be, you will report to wherever it is, and you're going to be interviewed regarding whatever. Normally they're kind of vague, but in this case, he knew. I mean, they would have had to have been at least somewhat specific on this. He knew exactly what it was. I mean, they'd already took his DNA, so he knew. So they did that, and on that date, he was supposed to come to the prison, and because he was off, he had been suspended pending, this investigation, and he didn't show up. All right, so the OIA went to his house and knocked on the door at the time, which was weird to me. He had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend just so happened to be coming over to his house, and she had a key to the house, and she let them in, and he had killed himself, shot himself with a shotgun, and it wasn't pretty. But killed himself, and he obviously was the father of the inmate's child. And I feel bad for the dude because, man, move on. That job wasn't for you, bro. I mean, I don't know if they would have pressed charges, on him. I mean, the inmate wasn't cooperating, so I don't know, man. It's just I don't get a good. I don't feel good about that. Even though he was wrong, don't get me wrong. There's nothing right about what he did. Absolutely nothing. But also, I don't like that the dude killed himself over it. That's not cool. So I feel sad about that one. But it did happen, and hopefully other people, if you don't get your fucking self in that situation, man. And some of these kids that are going to female prisons, man, I'm telling you, they will work the life out of you. Okay. They will work the life out of you. They will take your job. They will remember the female that was in tight with the CC2 that I was talking about. She had a guy in Canada. Now, and this wasn't obviously an employee. He was just a dude, just a dad. He had a son, and she was in a quasi relationship with him. Now she was doing double life. Okay, double life plus. She had this guy convinced that she was getting out of prison in a few months, and I heard the phone call. Okay, and many phone calls, and she was telling him she was getting out of prison. He was asking her or telling her that he had made a spot in his closet for her to put all her things, that his son was excited that he was going to have a mom, that and her response was, how is the job market in your area, and is there a Victoria's Secret? I mean, she worked this dude. She was never getting it. She's still in prison. This was 25 years ago. This bitch is still in prison. Okay. And she had this guy convinced in months she was getting out. He had given her somewhere over around $10,000. And why he would think he would need to do that? I mean, she was good. I even spoke to the guy, because I would bring that shit to my leadership, and it's like, man, I got to fix this, man. This chick is killing this dude, And she had already prepared him for that. And he said, well, she told me that you would probably call because you don't like her and blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't give two shits about her. I gave her another life sentence, or my people did. I mean, but that's because she deserved it. She's a dope dealer. That's where your money is going, is to dope. But he wouldn't believe it. I mean, eventually, they got to come around when when that parole date comes and goes, quasi parole date, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, she had him worked, and that's what I'm saying is like these guys that are going into these female prisons is, man, I'm gonna tell you that they will work you. Don't ever put yourself in a position to allow that shit to happen, man. They will take your job, they will take your family, they will take whatever you have, and they won't give a shit. They'll just move on to the next person because that's what they do. They're all over the internet. I mean, look them up. I don't even want to tell you how to look them up, but they're all there. Look, you can look them up, be their friend. They'll eventually start asking you for money. They will. They're good. They'll work you. So yeah, but hey, that's it for today. How long did I go, man? I still went 41 minutes. That's a little bit shorter today. Hopefully we'll talk soon. I'm still working on. I had a few things going on, and so my January 6th committee thing is still out there, and I am going to do it. That's a really important one. But we've got a lot of other shit going on, so I'm going to get back on my horse and start getting at y'all again. Hope you enjoy this little prison talk we had. Many more to come, hopefully. And I'm going to play my song on up out of here. And God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless Donald Trump. Thank you for destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. Greatly appreciated, and as does the world.